All right, so we were talking about the situation in the country in as far as management of motor vehicles are concerned, and I want to reflect just briefly on the recent proposal for car-free days in Nairobi, the rollout of the BRT system. We understand that dozens of them are expected to be coming to the country to help in the decongesting the city and helping commuting in Nairobi. And the question I want to ask, because when you see CS Munya and his proposals, it's in a sense, one of the repercussions would be that people are not able to afford cars, and so they'll use less of that. But have we planned appropriately to ensure that we can continue to move, even with the public transport system that we have or we are planning to have?
Well, I don't know, because I would have expected some kind of coordinated effort among all ministries. And usually the clearinghouse of any government is the cabinet, because that's the seat of power. And in the cabinet, some papers are co-signed by the relevant ministries so that there is effective coordination. Like if you say you are not coming with a car to say, CBD, have you informed the Minister of Interior and so forth, or even the police and other agencies? Otherwise, some of these directives are worrying. Secondly, if you say you are not importing cars, apart from people going for older cars, they will also make these older cars very expensive. Because if I don't have an alternative, it is easy. I remember those days in the 80s, when there were still very strict conditions. If you buy a car at 300,000, well, at 200,000, because a new 504 was 300,000. If you buy a car at 200,000, you are likely to sell it at 250. Those days. It is much later, when there was this freedom, that we were able to, you buy a car at 300,000, you may sell it at lower than that.
That's right.
Because of depreciation. But it was the other way around, that if you have an older car, you will sell it more expensive because you cannot have an alternative to this car. So that is where we are going, such that if I have one or two vehicles, I'll keep them. So that when that day comes, I may sell double the price I would have sold today. So we are not solving a problem. What we need to do is to go to the depth of it, see how to give incentives to the local manufacturers, and once they take off, about the same wedding and committee. When they take off, then we see what incentives are appropriate and what we do.
I see the Law Society of Kenya has gone to court to object to that car-free day. Remember that it was called off after it became apparent to the Ministry of Transport that they had not biometrically registered traders that were supposed to occupy the streets that was to have the car-free days. I don't know. So there's already an objection, and people are talking about public participation, which has not happened. Like, really, what's wrong
with the car-free day, the way I was made to understand is that there are only 2 lanes or 2 roads in the city that are going to be blocked out from motor vehicles, and that will be given to traders. So there are only 2. It's not that people will not go into the CBD or what have you, but those only 2 lanes will not be made available. But having said that, I think, you know, when we're talking about mass transport, we have to come into this discussion with 2 things. One is that we are very late in implementing mass transport. We should have built it from where it was many, many years ago, Waziri. And that's how developed cities have always done. So if you look at where we started with the Kenya bus, back in the day, the stagecoach, that's where we should have built on. Today, we should not actually be talking about BRTs or light rails. We should be talking about entering to what the big cities are doing. Like now, if you go to Johannesburg and if you go to Dubai, they have those light rails and what have you. That is where I think we should have transitioned into. Now, we did not do that. The matatu industry today is so engaged with the common wananchi that even the BRT will face an element of resistance from the matatu sector. I can guarantee you this. Up until we are able to manage the matatu sector, because this is the only transport many Kenyans know as their mode of or what you'd call mass transport. Now, I'm not saying for us not to bring in the BRT. We are late on that. And we should try and move as faster to try and implement, so that we can also be in line with what other major cities have, dictated. And it's a good thing. The light rails, this is something we should have done, and I'm not against it. We should do it. But let me tell you, if we run into implementing these things without proper public participation and without involving the stakeholders in that general business, we are going to have a lot of resistance. And we've already started seeing. There was a time, I think, the fight just between the 14-seaters and it was something big when the minister started saying, from now on we won't have these 14-seaters. We will move into good idea, but it is the price that we are paying for late implementation. So it is still going to face a lot of resistance, but yes, we must keep pushing it, but at some point I think we'll take a beating on both the BRT.
Shao from Mombasa is saying that to the Cabinet Secretary, majority of Kenyans cannot afford new cars. Please do not destroy the economy of this poor country. And I'm coming from the position of people go for cars because of certain needs. And unless you satisfy them in a different manner, they will still continue to hurt. The question I want you to respond to is, in this country we have this concept of public participation. It is within the Constitution. The last time there was an election in this country, the court ruled that the tender for ballot papers for presidential race should not continue because there was no stakeholder involvement. And IBC tried to patch up some work there, not very colorful. But when you talk about public participation and stakeholder consultation, must they always agree with what the proposal is from the government, or is it just a rubber stamp sort of thing?
Kituli, I think the purpose of public participation is not agreeing, it's coming up with a consensus. And most of these things, we talk about in trade or business, we talk about single sourcing of contracts. I think even in ideas, we should not single source ideas. When you want to implement an idea for the whole country, you can't single source it. I was talking to a friend who told me the biggest single sourcing that was done by God, where Noah was told to contract the ark. People were not consulted, and other foodies were not caught on the table to tender their ideas. So I think you want to implement an idea that affects the whole country. It's not good when you make an idea sitting somewhere. You might be the CS, and it's good that you call us with our friend Kilwa. Because he's a man with a lot of experience, and he was a CS, he's a cabinet secretary. He also needs to tell us when he was a cabinet secretary. It is the same way you are operating. But when you wake up in the morning and you are seated in the table with your wife, and your wife tells you, it would be very beautiful when in Nairobi has no vehicles. Then you say, Bas, we have an idea. And you say, now from tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, be a car-free environment in town. I think these ideas are so beautiful. But the consultation bit of it, like I was talking about this Munya idea, my friend Munya. He's talking about saving the environment. In this country, we have a Ministry of Environment. We would wish to see a report, a well-written report from the Ministry of Environment that is informing this decision. But when the Minister for Trade talks very authoritatively about what he wants to do about the environment, and I don't see the Environment Ministry also giving them the input, the way the Minister was saying, what report, technical report are we relying on? The technical report on environment should have come from environment. We should have a report also from Treasury telling us that how will this affect the economy? Because like the viewer said, we are slowly struggling this economy. 2 years ago, I heard about no mitubas in this country. And we were told the solution is that we'll empower cotton farmers, we'll open EPZ, we'll expand it, and it looked a very beautiful discussion. 5 years down the line, we have cotton industry being empowered. I've not seen it. The same way we are talking, we'll empower local manufacturers. It will just be a story.
Okay, just I don't hold brief for anyone, but the last time we hosted the CS, he said that Rivertex is up and running. But the question on supporting the farmers, we didn't get a proper response, because on the 12th of December 2017, the President of Kenya announced to the country the Big Four agenda and indicated that part of the mechanisms was to ensure that cotton farmers are supported and their cotton utilized to be turned into textile materials. Now, I asked that question because C.S. Munya is quoted here saying that we have consulted widely and even given enough time as we gradually reduce the age. Those who are not happy with it have an alternative to import smaller cars with the 8 years age limit or buy from the local market. Not everyone will support a policy because it is not a consensus building process.
You know a small car, well, and with a lot of respect to Kenyans who drive small cars, they are good in fuel saving. But if you are to take 1300 cc to Kitale every week, it will not last 5 years. Right. So I don't know, you know, Kenyans travel far. We have 2 homes. One home in Nairobi and another one in the rural areas. And you find most of us actually need these vehicles to go home and to show the villagers that we are doing well.
And then Wazili, you know why we lose it as leaders? You know, me and you are seated here today discussing people who buy cars. You're not discussing my mother who needs a matatu.
Oh yeah, that's
you know, we are discussing people who buy cars. We are not discussing the car users. And that's why we are so comfortable, because when we negotiate amongst ourselves, we agree that CS can afford a 2 years, Muduma will afford a 5 year. It's okay. But we are not talking about my mother who needs a matatu, and the matatu owner in Chuka cannot afford a matatu, a new matatu.